Hey, what is up guys? My name is Oleg, this is Bond. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to do a comparison between two Rolex Submariner Homage watches. One of them is Ginault Ocean Rover and the other one is Tisell Submersible. I did reviews for both of these watches, so this video is not going to be a review. It's not really going to be a versus duel where I give each watch points because I don't think the two watches are really competing with each other. One is substantially more expensive than the other. So why am I making this video? I got a lot of requests to do this video, so I guess that's why I'm making it. Plus I sold one of the watches, so this is kind of the last chance to do this comparison because one of the watches is leaving my collection and I will no longer be able to do this video in the future. So let's get started. All right, so let's do a side-by-side comparison between the two watches. On the left we have a Ginault Ocean Rover. On the right we have a Tisell Submersible. I am selling one of these watches and I'm actually selling the Tisell, even though in the unboxing and the review of this watch I said that this was my favorite Rolex Submariner Homage, but that was before I got this watch. And since then I think Ginault became my favorite Rolex Submariner Homage. Now the Ginault is about 5 times more expensive, or maybe even 6 times more expensive than the Tisell. So Ginault, I think this one is $1,400 versus this one here is $230. So clearly there is a big difference between the two watches. Let me answer this question right off the bat. Is it 6 times better? It's not, but in my opinion it is better. And what I really like about this homage versus this homage, that this is more of an homage and this is more of a copy. When you have a Ginault on your wrist, because of the color choices, because of the red seconds hand, because of the sword hands, because of the blue bezel and the gilt writing, nobody really would mistake this watch for a Rolex Submariner versus a Tisell. If you have it on your wrist, with one glance it looks very, very similar to a Rolex Submariner 5513, 5512. So it's more of a copy than an homage. Not a big deal, but out of the two I prefer the look of Ginault versus the look of Tisell. Also, some of the finishes on the Ginault are better, so let me point those out. First of all, let's look at the case. Both watches have a brushed finish on top and polished finish on the sides. We can see the difference in terms of how sharp the lines are on the Ginault versus how rounded off the lines are on the Tisell. It's not bad for $230, and this is what you would expect on a watch over $1,500 or a $1,500 watch, but you can definitely see the difference in quality. Even look at this first link, how rounded off this link is as opposed to how sharp and how well machined this first link on a Ginault is. You can also see how loose this link is when it connects to the case. It's the same thing on this side versus here. There's no play at all. It's very solid, well attached to the case, and again that all comes down to the price difference. It's also evident on the case back. You can see that this case back looks fairly standard. I'm pointing out the finishes here, not the case back itself. It just has a screw down case back, plain, no writing on it whatsoever, versus the case back on the Ginault. Again, look at the finishes, look how sharp the lines are, and the case back is plain for the most part, just has some writing around it, 300 meters of water resistance, Ginault, all the usual stuff. The difference in terms of the finish also extend to the bracelet. On the right we have Tisell, on the left we have a Ginault. You can see that the Ginault has much sharper lines. It also has a bit of a chamfering around the edges, so it's not just cut off, it's kind of rounded off. It's really well done. It looks great and it feels good in hand versus a Tisell. Again, a much cheaper watch, so it has a cheaper level of finish. It's not as sharp in terms of the cuts. It also just abruptly ends. It doesn't have that chamfering on the edges. Not a huge difference, but if you're looking at those small details, you can definitely see the difference between the two bracelets. The clasps are also different. So a Tisell has this one extension, kind of a half link to adjust as your wrist expands and contracts throughout the day, versus a Ginault. Has this glide lock mechanism. A copy of a Rolex Submariner, of course, they didn't invent this, but it is very useful, and it's one of my favorite features on any watch ever. It's very convenient, and I use it all the time, especially if I wear the watch to the gym, or if I wear the watch doing some sporting activities like I wore it to skiing. It was great because as it got colder or warmer on a mountain, my wrist kind of changed its volume, so it was nice to have this micro adjustment there. And the finish on the clasp, it's a bit evident. You can see again sharper lines on the Ginault versus the Tisell, kind of more rounded off. They didn't spend as much time or money on the finishes of their clasp. A few other differences: Tisell has a ceramic bezel insert, which is to a lot of people more preferable than the Ginault aluminum bezel insert. I don't mind aluminum bezel inserts. A lot of people think that they're a lot cheaper, so they are inferior. For some watches they work, for other watches they don't. I think on this one here it works pretty well. I don't think a ceramic bezel would look as nice, but you'll be the judge of that and see which one you prefer out of the two. Also, there are some differences in terms of the dial. So Tisell has a printed on dial with painted on lume for hour marks, versus Ginault here has applied hour marks, and it has kind of a sand filled indices. It looks very nice. It also has sword style hour hand and a red seconds hand, versus a more traditional Mercedes hour hand and this nice lollipop seconds hand. I like that Tisell has less writing on its dial than the Ginault. Ginault has 4 lines of writing and quite a few words. Overkill in my opinion. I prefer the simplicity of the Tisell dial. There's also a difference in movements. So Tisell is powered by a Miyota 90S5 movement, which is the same as a 9015 movement, except for it doesn't have a date function. Really solid movement, robust, practical, beats at 28,800 beats per hour. So you get that smooth tick to the seconds hand, versus a Ginault. They have their own quote-unquote in-house movement, essentially a copy of a ETA 2824. Also beats at the 28,800 beats per hour. And I'm not sure which movement is better, because arguably Ginault is a copy of a ETA movement. A lot of people say it's a cheap Chinese movement. They did it to save money, and some people had problems with their movements. So maybe putting in a actual ETA movement would have been the right choice for Ginault. Something that I need to point out: a few people did have some troubles with their movements, where movements would stop working or would be very inaccurate, and Ginault would have to kind of fix their watches and this whole thing. So that's the movement in Ginault versus the movement in Tisell. That's the side-by-side comparison between the two watches. I really don't think the two watches are competing with each other. If you're looking for a budget Rolex Submariner Homage, Tisell is probably the right choice, or maybe even Phoebus PY007C. I also did a review of that watch, and I actually like it more than this watch in terms of the quality. It's a little bit more expensive, $300. So those are your budget options, the Tisell or the Phoebus. If you're looking for a good solid watch around $1,000–1,500 mark, and also you want something that looks a lot like a Rolex Submariner, Ginault is not a bad option for that. Alright guys, so that's the comparison between the Ginault Ocean Rover and the Tisell Submersible. For now, the Ginault is staying in a collection. I will probably sell it in the future if I ever buy a real Rolex Submariner. Then I will no longer need the Ginault. For now, I really enjoy wearing that watch. I think it's comfortable and it's a great sports watch. Tisell Submersible is also a great watch. For $230, it's fantastic value for money. I did a lot of activities in that watch, but currently I am downsizing my collection and I don't have a place for 2 Rolex Submariner Homage watches, so one of them had to go, and Tisell just didn't make the cut. I appreciate you watching this video until the end. Please leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about these 2 Rolex Submariner Homages, and what is your favorite Rolex Submariner Homage. Which one out of the 2 would you pick? Leave all those thoughts in the comment section below. I always enjoy reading your comments. By the way, today on my wrist I'm wearing a vintage Seiko chronograph. This one is 6130. 39. I did a full review of this watch. I'll link it in the description below. Also in the description, there is a secret link. Have a look if you're curious. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you had fun, and I will see you guys next time.